NRL fantasy team lists are in, and I'll tell you what, guys. Oh, we got more curveballs than I expected this week. This is messy. This is messy. But I will say one thing. I've gone into each of your accounts. I thought I'd give you something nice, and I've dropped in 8 fresh trades for you. So if you got the 8 fresh trades, you're welcome. Just went and did that earlier this week. So 8 more trades, make those big upgrades, make those moves, and try to buy someone who's not rested this week. Now, before you rip into the team list, guys, just want to quickly jump in. If you go to the fantasy stat page, Nathan Cleary, big red dot there. That is, I had my Nathan Cleary buy of the week graphic ready to go. This is this is very concerning. And Isaiah Yeo getting a rest as well. Pretty crazy news here for the Panthers there. So yeah, that's a wild one. Obviously, we're going to have some other upgrades to go for then. So Big Tino becomes a really interesting option. And yeah, the Panthers boys are just gonna have to wait a week, which is tough. It's tricky. Now I've got a bit of a slow loading issue. Is anyone else's NRL.com moving really slowly? Because internet's fast, but NRL.com nice and slow for us. So anyway, let's rip into some questions here before we jump into the teams. So we got Lewis. He's bringing bringing Young back in. Yeah, Huddy Young, not a bad shout there at all. We got 2021 Josh Schuster in his prime. Good selection there. Holding Brayley, deciding on picking up Tino this week instead of Yo. I think Tino is a great option this week, especially up against Tigers. It's a good matchup there. It's a matchup that I'm not saying they'll win necessarily, but I think the Tigers are a matchup that Tino can exploit. So I think some attacking stats be an offer for him there. Now let's rip into these teams, guys. But before we do, we'll just have a few more questions there. And that was only 10 minutes to load the team list page for NRL.com. So that's it's pretty quick, guys. Australian internet, absolutely flying. Here we go. So just a few more questions, then we'll rip into these team lists. But how's everyone going? How many trades are you using this week, guys? Drop a little message in. Let me know how many trades you're using. Is it 0 trades, 1 trade, 2 trades, 4 trades? What are you doing here? Bringing Young in. So I had 9 players for round 19. That is absolutely brutal, man. You probably ran out of trades too, I'm guessing. So that's a shocking spot to be in. How much would Taylor May cost? He's going to be, I reckon, around that 500K mark, something that's not that appealing. That's my guess for Taylor May. I think he'll be a bit of an awkward price for us to deal with. Watson on the bench is a joke. Oh, God. I didn't know that. Oh, okay. Can't wait to burn these 8 trades. Yeah. We're just getting totally screwed over. Dewey Lock is very interesting, by the way. Duncan in the centers. Yeah, there's a bit of chaos now playing the boys. Jaden Brayley back into the starting hooker spot, I'm guessing, here as well. The gift that kid never stops giving is fantasy. It's absolutely brutal. You just can't overreact on 1 week, though, guys. You got to play the long game. Everyone moaning about Cleary and Yo. Ask about Dewey. Yeah, Dewey's going to be really interesting. So let's rip into these teams because, yeah, RIP, Cleary and Yo. Got a lot of pain there. Look, I've got Cles on my side, but yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, look, I'm glad that a few other people are seeing the app really slow as well. I tried to open team lists right on 4 o'clock and started the stream at 4:05, thinking like, oh my god, am I gonna have to do the stream without team lists? We'll see how much you guys really like me if we do that. Tino over Yo now, surely 100%. So Tino was already going to be the pod of the week. That was my plan. He might move into buy of the week right now with this change, or potentially Latrell Mitchell. We'll talk about him quite a bit as well. Chad the Goat is back. Hosking back in my team. Yeah. You can start Hosking. I wouldn't be buying Hosking. Captain on Hudson Young is very brave. I was thinking it was going to be Cleary. And then, yeah, excited for the new game. Yeah, that comes out really soon. I think it's Thursday this week. The new game comes out. So, yeah, trade counts being used here. Got two, well, originally 2, 3, 5, 3 to 4. We got Maximus here. Very, very calm, very, very balanced here with 1 trade only. Wow, you 1 trade users are interesting. And Galvin's a red hot option, by the way. 450K for Galvin. I reckon he's good for that sort of 50-odd average if he keeps that spot. So Galvin's a great option there, especially when you look at depth. And I think you got to really think about the fact that we're going to get screwed over so much down the stretch of this fantasy season. We're going to get absolutely screwed over by stuff like what's happening this week. So let's jump into the teams. Let's start rolling through. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see the logos there as well because I love the aesthetic of it. So Dolphins v Cowboys. And I'm going to skim past irrelevance here, basically, guys. So fire through any questions about specific players on the teams that are on the board here. If if you do want to talk about them. But for the Dolphins here, you got Hammer at fullback, Asako, Finai, Farmworth, and Avarillo in the back line. Sean O'Sullivan with Isaiah Katoa in the halves. Forward pack is Frankie Molo, Marshall King, and Tawa starting again. Lemuelu, Keeley, and Donahue in the back row. Interchange, we've got Graham, Stone, Kerr, and Holler. So for the Dolphins here, the relevance here, I mean, Herbie Farmworth's nearly 900K, absolutely transcendent. That try he scored last week was absolutely out of nothing. So he's taking a hit up and he just managed to make that huge bust, pass the ball off, got the ball back, scored that try. As a Herbie Farmworth owner, I love seeing it every week. I don't know if you could buy him though. If you don't have him at nearly 900K, it's a lot of money. Like, it's a lot of cash. It's a lot of cash. Unless you're really cashed up, I think you're almost forced not to buy him at that price. He's about 150K more expensive than Bo Firma, for example. So it's up to you with your team. I personally, if I wasn't a Farmworth owner, I'd be sort of feeling like it's a bit too late. But at the same time, it would not shock me at all if he keeps pumping out this 65 average. So you kind of got to make your own call on this one. He is in unprecedented territory. Like 55 as a pure center was seen as transcendent last year. He's now at 65. So we can't really predict what's going to happen with Herbie Farmworth, but the work rate's fantastic, and he's just creating tries out of nothing now as well. So, yeah, I would say you'd have to put him in that best center in the conversation next to Stephen Crichton at this stage. I'm keen to actually really look at that at the end of this year, have a look at who sort of ends up on top. Critter's done a lot in big games, but Herbie Farmworth just on 2025 form is untouchable. Now, into the halves here, Sean O'Sullivan, Isaiah Katoa. Look, Isaiah Katoa is an option that we've talked about quite a bit through the year, and he's at that sort of mid 700s price point, not totally out of range, expensive, very good option. Had a bit of a base game last week, not a lot of attacking stats. Scored a 51. I thought Sean O'Sullivan might steal some kick meters off him, and Sauce did steal a few. So Sauce is around that sort of high 100s area for kick meters there. Cody Nicarima was lower than that. So he has taken a few points off Katoa in terms of kicking. I would say it's maybe a 2 to 3 point reduction. So if you're looking at a 58 average before that, drops down to like a 55, 56 instead. At that rate, depending on who your halves are, like if you're short on halves and you want to get Katoa, I like it. But if you're running guys, and I said this last week, if you're running guys like Nico Hines, like Cam Munster, like Jerome Hughes, I don't think the gap is big enough to justify the trade or the expense. So personally, I'm riding into the future here with Nico Hines and Cam Munster next to Nathan Cleary as my halves. And Nico Hines worked out well last week, but it's not going to work every week. He scored 2 tries. Isaiah Katoa will be better than both those guys. I would expect, like realistically, he's definitely the better option. If they were the same price, I'd probably move to him. But at the price points, I don't think Isaiah Katoa represents the value unless you are really short on halves, in which case he is the second best next to Nathan Cleary. Down the list here in the forward pack, Jerry Marshall King had a big game. He is one to keep an eye on. Not getting the 80 minutes consistently, so that's a bit concerning there, but he is a guy who can spike up and have a big game. If you are light at hooker and you want a pod, you want someone a bit of a discount, Jerry Marshall King's a decent option. Rest of the Dolphins forward pack, it's too late for Kurt Donahue, and the rest aren't really that interesting. All Blacks Tawa, he was a 237K priced cash out we talked about last week. Center available right now. Potentially gets that front row duel, but most likely doesn't. So for him, you're getting that center cash out. He's a bit more expensive than the cash out now. Not a bad option here. Not a bad depth piece, especially with Dylan Lucas going down at center. So I'm not against you going for him either. The bench for the Dolphins is really not of interest here. So we'll jump onto the Cowboys next. And for the Cows, we've got Scotty Drinkwater at the fullback spot. For the Drink, look, he's a bit of a boom or bust option there. Needs some attacking stats. Didn't really get them last week. He will have them sometimes it's going to be sort of hot and cold. Really strong loophole option if you can this week, though. So if you pop him into your loophole and you have a red dot wing fullback, which I'd say most teams don't, but if you're a Reece Walsh owner, you might, then it might be nice to run a loophole between Scott Drinkwater and maybe Tommy Turbo or something in that kind of equation there. So I think he's a nice end of bench guy. You can sell him if you want to, but only if you're really flush with trades. The rest of the Cowboys backline is of no interest whatsoever to me. Not jumping on any of these guys, except for Tommy Dearden. Now, if Tommy Dearden is playing next to Jackson Purdue and dominating the kick meters the way he did last week, then he's actually going to be a decent option down the stretch. The risk with Tommy Dearden is the round 27 buy is not favorable. We're going to see guys getting rested in round 27. So that's where you got to look at Tom Dearden and think, all right, Do I want to cop that round 27 red dot, especially if you already have Scott Drinkwater and maybe have some Storm players who might get a rest as well? It's going to put you in a tricky situation. So I don't think Tom Dearden's worth jumping onto with that round 27 buy. But if you want a super pod, you can give him a look. In terms of the forward pack here, Thomas McKaylee is a fun cash out we talked about a few weeks ago. He's too expensive now, so he's not going to be worth it. But the PPM is absolutely fantastic from him. You've got Ruben Cotter staying on the edge back row spot there as well, which makes more space for McKaylee to stay in the front row. But probably too late. Too expensive, not quite a keeper, not a lot of job security. You get my drift. If you're a team that's really low on cash, though, he is not a bad option in that 300s area. Reece Robson is one who could get hot, but hasn't shown any signs, so I'm going to skip past him. Cotter, Nanai, Edwards, these guys aren't quite keepers. So that's really the Cowboys done and dusted there. I'll fire through some questions before I rip into the next game. So what have we got? Some funny ones. Playing Drinky. Yeah, I would say yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to play Drinky this week. If you can loop, I'll do it, but I'm going to start him this week. Also, this is a good correction. Thank you for that. Watson not on the bench. Appreciate you, Jordan, for correcting that one. Is buying 3 Titans this week okay? Tino, Firma, and Campbell. I mean, they're all good buys individually. I'm a little scared of getting so many Titans, but yeah, a lot of people are bringing in JC this week, and I think he's a great option at the price point, and the Tigers matchup is a positive one. How did De Silva not gain any cash last week? He actually had a break even in that sort of 40s area. So you might have seen when we covered him in the cheapie section. His break even was about 45 because he had a run of really low scores. So his true average was around that sort of 10 to 15 points there. So he'll jump up in cash next week, I would expect. Either of those Finn's edges getting 80 minutes, not worth even really thinking about, I don't think. Just don't jump on that. Tawa, good cash out. I like it as long as you don't need the cash. Dono, just the better cook. Yeah, he's solid. He's just a bit more expensive now, and you might as well go for a true keeper, is my view on this. Is Drinkwater a sell for Qatar? It's an upgrade as long as you're covered at the wing fullback spot. And then Fancy Triple H. Good to see you, mate. Tom McKaylee, PPM Goat. Yeah, JMK, the pod. Captain Heavy Farmworth. Not a bad shout here. So Cowboys' edges haven't been super solid, but it's risky. It's very risky. Captaining a center. I mean, look, no Nathan Cleary, no Payne Haas this week. So you could make the case. This makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Nico, of course. Yeah, love the Nico time. Turtles, loving the carnage here. Good to see you, mate. JMK, 65 tackles last week is absolutely insane. He had basically purely defensive stats last week. The mid-center DPP, hopefully. He's not a bad option, guys. If you want to go Tawa, I'm not against it. Sako to Edwards. You could do this. The Cowboys are not a bad matchup for Sako either, but Edwards is a good fun option. Katoa hater. No. I just think it's a bit of a downgrade. Cody Nikorima is the perfect half next to Katoa, and Sean O'Sullivan does take over a bit more of those kicks. So just dropping him a few points there. Is there any space on the Heinz trains? Yes, there is. You can jump on the Heinz train if you want to jump on. Nice and cheap. Panthers, yeah. Taylor May, we'll talk about him as well. And then your Heinz going 80 plus. This is the kind of commentary I like to see, guys. I swear everyone was roasting me for Heinz and Munster a little while back, and now that Heinz has proven himself, we're all on the train. And this is an interesting one here too. I'm holding Purdue all year. He's a bit of a pod with 70 upside. Too late to sell, price point anyways. Not a bad shout. Like depth piece there, not a great price point anyway. He might hit some form again. He hasn't looked good at all. I don't expect him to hit form. I think he's sort of fallen off a bit this year, but it could happen. Get hot again at the right time. Could be an easy play. And we got a mixed bag here. Heinz, my goat, and Heinz to get a 40 next game. Could go either way. I mean, he was running some nice lines, but that running game is never a stable scoring production tool. Now, let's go into the Sharks and the Roosters here. And for the Sharkies, we've got a pretty standard-looking team. That's nice. Roosters, yeah, Connor Watson starting. That's good too. Fiketti keeps his spot. So I quickly see Suo Wong is not in the picture. Look, I love Suo Wong. I'm keen for him to get back on the field and all that. But as a Fiketti owner, bit of relief from me. Bit of relief that I can play Fiketti again this week. So that's good. Now let's rip into this team. Sharks have got Kennedy at fullback, Katoa, Ramian, Talakai, Mulatalo in the back line, Trindle and Hines in the halves. Then forward pack here is Fanua, Blake, Brayley, Kafusi in the front row, Nakora, Wilton, McInnes in the back row. Interchange is rounded out with Atkinson, Colhoun, Rudolph, and Hamlin Uele. So Sharks, it's always a pretty boring team list with the Sharks. There's not usually much going on here. But in general, for the back line, yeah, you could make a case for some of these guys being a bit underpriced. Kennedy's a bit underpriced. Mortalo's a bit underpriced, but they're just not quite keepers. So probably not the guys I'm jumping onto. Nico Hines is a fun option. And the way he was running lines last week, he was running a lot of crash balls. He's going to rack up some tries this year. So I don't mind Nico if you want a cheaper option there. It's a bit of a risky option. His form has been a bit spotty. So I don't know if I'd fully recommend him as a buy, but he's definitely a hold if you do have him. Forward pack here for Noah Blake. He was going through it a bit last week. So what I've heard there is he lost his grandfather during the week, I believe. Grandfather who was it was a very important parental role to him. So that sort of thing can impact players' performance, or maybe he just had a quiet game. I'm just mentioning it there as something that might have been a factor there, and hopefully he's going through that okay. But for Fanua Blake, if you just look at pure fantasy here, I'm going to hold on to Fanua Blake because last couple of weeks have been a bit dicey, but the minutes overall have been moving in the right direction. I think Cronulla do need him to play a big role if they're going to be good down the stretch. So I'm going to keep Fanua Blake for the year. Basically, that's my call here. I reckon I don't have enough trades to be moving on guys like Fanua Blake or even Joey Tarpanay. So personally, my stake is I'm going to stick with these guys. They've been relatively endurant. They haven't missed game due to injuries. They've had a few games where they've had quieter minutes, but I think they'll be relatively available down the stretch. And they both play for teams who will be battling for the either top 4 or top 8 spots here too. So he's a hold for me. The rest of the Sharks team here, guys like McInnes, Nakora, I think they're a tier below that keeper level. So I think you can move them on if you want to. You could hold on to them. McInnes is probably closer to keeper than Nakora. Blake Brayley is definitely a hold. He is arguably the best hooker in fantasy right now, which is absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, yeah, if you're a Brayley owner, just ride that wave until the wheels come off. I've sort of mixed two sayings there, but Brayley has just been on fire lately. 100 meters plus last week in terms of running the ball. Defensive stats are fantastic. He's a machine. So keep going with him, but I wouldn't necessarily buy him. He's pretty expensive. Interchange, nothing to talk about here. And we'll jump across to the Roosters and then I'll do some questions on these teams. So Jimmy Tedesco at fullback. We've got Tupou, Billy Smith, Rob Toya, and Noini Tuase back to the wing spot. Chad Townsend next to Sam Walker. Hugo Savala is out for 1 to 2 weeks with a wrist issue. Forward pack here, we got White, Watson, and Collins. Then we go to the back row here. Crichton, Feketi, and Radley. Interchange is Doc Clay, Steep, Butcher, and Lenu. So for this Roosters side, Savala's a sell. That's a pretty easy one. He's one to move on now. He's been fantastic for us this year. The role was already reducing with Sam Walker coming back, and now you have an injury as well. So he's someone to move on. If you've got Nawani Tuase, Toya, or Tedesco, that definitely holds. I wouldn't be rushing to buy Toya and Nawani Tuase, but Tedesco is one that you can still target right now as a great wing fullback. He's just super available. Like he never takes games off. He's not getting rested. He didn't play Origin this year. Seems super durable, knock on wood, but Jimmy Tedesco sort of rocks up every week, and it doesn't really matter what's happening in the game. He sort of comes out and produces a decent score. Even last week, he was very quiet a lot of that game. That ended up in the high 50s. It was a 59 last week. So Tedesco is a very safe, stable, good option that you can jump onto at wing fullback, and he doesn't have any buys coming up late in the season either. For the forward pack here, Nafahu White, I think time is coming to an end on Nafahu White's run of fantasy relevance. So that would be my guess. I think just as the players come back, he will sort of fade into obscurity a bit. But at the same time, he's been producing, and I wouldn't sell him until he stops producing. Connor Watson starting here. He got 5 minutes off at the end of the game last week. Docker Clay came on at hooker. Yeah, that's going to happen. He's sort of going to be 70 to 80 minutes a week. He might move to lock some games, but last week it didn't happen. For the rest of the forward pack here, Gus Crichton looked fantastic, very involved. No offloads in that game, but still ended up with a mid-50s score. So if you want Gus Crichton, I'm a fan of him as an upgrade option. Feketi is one that you keep starting until he loses that starting spot. He was playing 80 minutes last week. He scored 54 points without attacking stats. So, yeah, Feketi's getting through work. That's a higher average than we had in reserve grade, though. So I would just temper expectations a little bit and probably say, you expect that maybe high 40s average instead, mid 40s, and then throw in a few attacking players on top of that. But I think Feketi is one that you can run in 17 this week, especially with Cronulla being a little bit dodgy in defense. Victor Radley's not one we're jumping onto, and the bench here is full of guys we're avoiding as well. So I'll just hit some questions here. When did dual positions update? From MCHL Joyce. So round 21, dual positions come through. Normally it happens after teams are named in round 21. So it's going to be based on usually the player getting named to start in that position 4 times for the year. So have a look at that. And if they haven't been, if they haven't played 4 games in that position by round 21, then they probably won't get dual position. So guys like Turbo are on the fringe there. But that'll come through next week. Hines might go. Yep. Edwards a buy. Not a bad shout. NRL Fantasy Stats lies to us. They're not lying. They're not lying. It's just the NRL Fantasy Stats website sometimes miscalculates the break evens. So if the break evens for a player who's under 230K, NRL Fantasy Stats site doesn't handle that calculation super well. So every now and then there's a player that has that issue, but I wouldn't stress about it too much. Like he's going to go up in cash over time anyway. Bondi Wall. Is it worth selling Duncan now? We'll talk about him with the South team, but it definitely is. And Fanil Blake is a hold, is my view. Watson or Harry Grant. I've gone Watson myself. I think Harry Grant gets a rest here and there down the stretch. I worry about that. Aitken at edge instead of Duncan makes Aitken a hold. Aitken's a hold. Duncan's a sell. What the Chad Townsend disaster class? Are we considering Angus Crichton over Eli Katoa or Firma? He's at a better price point, and I think he averages relatively similar. So I would go Gus Crichton over those guys if you're just picking a back rower. If you need the center cover, go for Firma. And if you're a big Katoa believer, you can jump on Katoa. He is a fun attacking option there. Sandon robbed, yeah. Lucas De La Trell is a good option here. Full-time Nico Hater here. He won't score well. Of course you are, Noz. Of course you are. Hines or Campbell or someone else. I go Campbell. Campbell's at a good price point here. He's got the Tigers this week. Gus, a must buy. Not a must, but a very good option and one that I'm going to seriously consider this week. Can I loop Ethan King this week? Yeah, that'd be fine. That'll be fine. Just chuck him into the starting side and you can run that loop. Best replacement for Paps. Is Paps names this week? Because it's going to be, Carraz, Tedesco, Campbell, Latrell, like these types of players there. Now, let's see. Anyone else here asking any juicy questions? Chad for an 80 plus. Yeah, I'm going to say AFB is definitely a hold. I think we covered most of those questions there. Gus over Preston is a big question here. I would go Gus just on the price point. I think his price is great. And he should average in that sort of high 50s area, especially with the Roosters being back to more traditional halves in place there too. So Gus is one that I'm going to try to find a way to bring into my side this week. Now, rolling into the next game here. So Friday night, we got a normal round 2. We go through Thursday, 8 p.m., Friday, 6 p.m., Friday, 8 p.m. I just love that we're back to normal footy here. And as much as I do love Origin, well, not game 3, but I do love Origin, I just love having Friday night footy back to double games. So for the Panthers and the Rabbitohs, this one should be interesting. And this is not exactly what we were expecting for this game. So for the Panthers here, you got Dylan Edwards at fullback, Jenkins, Alamotti, McLean, and Tor in the back line, Talangi and Schneider in the halves. Forward pack is Leota, Kenny, Smith, and then Sorensen, Garner, Papali'i at lock. Interchange, we have Dean Laurie at fullback reserve, I guess, Liam Henry, Patea, and Eisenhuth. So I quickly check on the extended bench here. Cole, Summerton, Gaia, yeah, okay. So no one really relevant there. So for the Panthers here, a few things happened to my projections here. The Panthers' top guns, Isaiah Yeo, Nathan Cleary, they are not anywhere near as relevant as they were. I thought them starting off the bench last week might have been the rest, but apparently we're getting another rest. So for them, you're not getting them this week. And for South Sydney players, they get a bit of an upgrade here. I was a bit worried about this matchup, but now if you're looking at Latrell Mitchell in particular, or maybe you're looking at Jack White and one of these players, they get an upgrade because of the weaker Panthers side being named here. So for the Panthers, I'm going to say Dylan Edwards, fun pod. Without Nathan Cleary, could score very well this week. He'll probably not goal kick. Might be Alamotti instead. But yeah, Dylan Edwards is not a bad option here if you do want to jump on Dylan Edwards. Outside of that, Brian Tor, if you're really desperate for a pod, is not a crazy option. Forward pack here, I'm not really jumping on Papali'i, Garner, Lindsay Smith as much as I do think they'll score well this week. I don't think it's going to be long-term enough. So really, Panthers, pretty straightforward here. You're going to hold Cleary or Yo if you have both those guys. For the Rabbitohs, we got Latrell Mitchell at the fullback spot, Johnson, Tass, Duncan at center with Munro on the wing, Jack White and Jamie Humphreys in the halves. Then we got Satola, Havili, Kalomatangi at prop, Aitken, Host, and Arrow at lock. Interchange, we have Marmazelis, Hubner, Kepi, and Dodd. So for South Sydney, Latrell Mitchell, bang an option. We'll talk about him a bunch. He'll be in the buys section this week. He is the creme de la creme of wing fullback options this year. So jump on him. The fact that the Panthers are named a weaker side, I might tip South Sydney in this one. He should be a good option here. Talis Duncan is one that probably got to sell him, right? You probably got to sell him. You don't have to do it this week. He's got a pretty good break even. Last game he played at center, though, he was pretty shocking for fantasy. It was set to score about 15 to 20 points. Got bailed out with a couple of tries at the end, but tell you what, he ran some nice lines. So maybe he does grab some attacking upside here. I just reckon it's probably not going to be one that you want to play in your 17. And he's at a price point where you can straight swap him to Gus Crichton or someone similar. So I'd be making that move this week if I was a Talis Duncan owner. Then for the halves, Jack Whiten actually becomes vaguely interesting here if you want that cash out at center. Not a juggernaut of a scorer when he plays at the half spot, but, mid 40s, usually around that 45 marker. Playing next to Latrell and Jamie Humphries is not the best spot for him, though. He's not going to be that dominant half. So you're kind of relying on him and South Sydney showing some attacking capability, which they haven't shown heaps of lately. Then into the forward pack here for South, Kalomatangi is one we just have to ride the wave with. Like, we're not selling Kalomatangi, but recent form's been dodgy, so we'll keep an eye on him. Ewan Aitken, if you have him, you hold him for sure. He's been a great scorer when he's played in the back row, been around that sort of 55 average is what I'd forecast for him. And he may get the center dual position next week as well. So for Ewan Aitken, if you're an Aitken owner, you hold on this week and you see what happens. If he gets moved late to center, you can sell him at that stage. But I don't expect it to happen. I think the fact that Talis Duncan was so good in that role last time has won him that spot, which is pretty bad news for Duncan owners. Then for the rest of the South team, yeah, we're not jumping on. They're really sells. If they're not a keeper, they're a sell. So let's rip into some questions here. Latrell Mitchell, pod captain. Ooh, Latrell Mitchell, pod captain. I mean, that's not a crazy option. I'm okay with Latrell Mitchell, pod captain. Yeah, if you want to do that, it's wild, but no Cleary, no Payne Haas, and Terrell May is dropping in minutes. It makes a bit of sense here. What's my favorite number? 1 to 17. I always played more in the back row. So 11, 12, or 13. Probably 12. I think I'd be a 12. That's probably where I'd want to go. But although these days I'm probably more of an 8, the prop spot. White or Dewey, I mean, they're both high upside guys. I think Dewey's fantasy pedigree is worth taking a dice roll on if you want to go with one of those two. So I'd go Dewey just for the supernova upside. Trell pod captain, yep, I'm okay with it if you like it. Cook to Trell, thank you very much. Good shout here. Great bench for Kalomatangi. Yeah, you're right. So Hubner will come on at that lock spot. Kepi, Dodd, Marmazelis. Yeah, it's very light. So Kalomatangi should theoretically play close to 80 minutes here. Troll Mint or Teddy? Probably, I mean, look, Teddy's going to be more available. Latrell is the better scorer. But Latrell has that buy in round 26. So with South Sydney players, that round 26 buy is going to be seriously challenging. That's the one thing that counts against Latrell. But overall, I think Latrell's a great option to buy. Why isn't Cleary playing? He's getting a rest here. Is it worth getting Latrell instead of Cleary for the run home? I think Cleary's still a great option to get. So this year when he's played full games, he's averaged 70 plus. Latrell, the best we can hope for is sort of that mid 60s. So Cleary is a better option, more expensive though. So really, if you're getting Cleary, you're captaining him a lot of the time. I'm okay with you getting Latrell this week. Decent option there. Yeah, both are good options there, but you'd probably want to get both if you can. But if you're choosing one, I think Latrell's a good option this week. I do think he's a good option. Angus a buy over Firma. It depends if you need center. But yeah, look, Firma's a good option. Gus is a good option. Gus is cheaper. Firma has center cover. Gus is the better scorer. So if you just want back row, then Gus is the better buy. Do I go Duncan to Gus Crichton this week? Yeah, I like it a lot. Smash that trade. Just as I sold Aitken last week instead of Duncan. Look, he's still a bit dodgy. Like, he might move to center. You got off that train. Don't feel too bad about it. Campbell or Mitchell? Campbell's better value. Mitchell is the better scorer right now. I'd probably go Campbell myself. Save the money, and you don't have the round 26 buy to deal with. Who's a better buy? Trollmid or Teddy? Again, yeah. So we'll talk about buy, hold, sell is going to be good, guys. So I'll go through wing fullback this week quite a bit on buy, hold, sell. But Latrell is going to be the center of conversation in buy, hold, sell. Now that we don't have Cleary and Yo, Latrell is sort of that premium guy. So I'm going to talk a lot about Latrell, talk A lot about Big Tino, Gus Crichton. They're all moving into the buys section this week. They were in the pods last week. There's a few options there that we want to talk about. So Latrell versus other options. I'll discuss that in depth on buy hold sell, guys. Is Clomatani a keeper at edge? Keeper at edge. Yeah, I think he is. I think he is. I'm hoping he can get back to his normal scoring. I still think he's a keeper for sure. Yeah. Do you reckon May 80-minute games are gone? I do feel like that's sort of happening here. So, yeah, it looks like he's fading back to 65 to 70 minutes. Haas a trade? Absolutely not. Haas is premium when he comes back next week. He's getting 2 weeks off. I think it's overdue. As a Haas owner, I'm happy he's taking the time off. He can have a rest. He'll come back and he'll be sweet. I'm captaining Payne Haas from round 21. That's my plan here. I think he's going to be one of the best for the run home. We're selling Duncan. Ooh, are we selling Duncan? Yes. Yes. But you don't have to. If you don't need him for your 17, you can keep him one more week. But yeah, you're probably selling Duncan. Herbie's captain is not a bad shout. And then what 3 things do you like about yourself? Where's the curveballs from you, Jackie? What 3 things do I like? Well, I'm okay at fantasy. That's a good one. I think I like when people around me do well. So that's one thing I really enjoy, sort of helping other people to try to be their best selves and sometimes a bit forcefully encouraging people. So very encouraging sort of person. And the third one, I go hard. I work hard. That's probably my 3, I'd say. Then any other questions here? Look, really, it's a lot of Latrell, right? So I think Latrell's a great option, guys. He's one of the options I'm targeting this week too. So let's rip into the next game here. Raiders versus Eels. Not super fantasy relevant, this one. But there's a couple of cash out options we can talk about. So for the Raiders, KO Weeks at fullback. We got Jed Stewart, Tomoko, Chris Savage in the back line, Strange and Fogarty in the halves, Papali'i, Starling, Tarpanay in the front row. In the back row is Hudson Young returning with Hosking and Horsburgh. Interchange, we've got Paddy, Sasangi, Smithies, and Mariota. So for Canberra, pretty straightforward here. KO Weeks, do not jump on KO Weeks after that big score. It's just, I mean, he could keep doing it. He could, but the scoring profile is not great for KO Weeks. Like, you sort of need generational brilliance from him to get a decent fantasy score. Jed Stewart is a cash out. You could jump on if you wanted to, but he's a bit expensive now, so probably not worth the jump there. Jamal Fogarty is a keeper. If you have Jamal Fogarty in your team, don't be selling him. Don't fall for the bright lights here. He's a keeper. I'm not rushing to buy him, though. I think he's sort of in that, he's in that regular, mid to high 50s area, I would say, for the rest of the year. So good half option without being, Nathan Cleary. Forward pack here. Joey Tarpanay is a big point of contention. A lot of people own him. My view on Joey Tarpanay is you hold Joey Tarpanay. And I'm not saying for sure that he's going to come good, but unless you have 15 trades, 14, 13, maybe even 12 trades in the bank, you just can't afford to be selling guys like Joe Tarpanay. So my view is you stick with him. He's a bench keeper. You hope he gets back to normal. He's still averaging about 57 and a half. This game against Parramatta is one that he could potentially score a try in. We saw some pretty feeble defense against front rowers from Parramatta in the last few weeks, and that could continue here. So I would say if you're a Tarpanay owner, stick with him. That's what I'm doing. I'm just going to stick with him. Zach Hosking, I'd keep Hosking for this Parramatta matchup too, by the way. They can leak a try to an edge back rower. So give him some time. He's going to make cash. You can start him this week and probably look to sell him next week, I would say, depending on the minutes there. The issue there is Simi Sasangi has earned a role, so he will steal more minutes. Hudson Young is a fun option if you do want a expensive option in the back row. Personally, I would go Gus Crichton over Hudson Young, but Hudson Young, if he keeps scoring a try a game, will be the best back rower in fantasy. So if you think he's going to do that, you can jump on. Corey Horsburgh, not a keeper, not someone I'm targeting personally. I think he's good. I think you have him in your team, you can keep rolling with him, but I wouldn't be targeting him as a buy. For Parramatta, Yongi, Lomax, Simonson, Russell, Addo, Carr in the back line. Papali'i keeps the spot at 6 with Dean Hawkins at 7. Forward pack is Hopgood in the front row with Riley Smith and Junior Barlow. Then we have Geimer, Williams, and Walker in the back row. Interchange is De Silva, Samrani, Dury, and Tuiviti. So Parramatta really just building towards the future, I would say, with this team. So first point to make here is Josh Papali'i playing that 6th spot. My understanding is he's going to keep that spot for the rest of the year as long as things aren't completely disastrous. So I would say if you want to cash out at 230K, Josh Papali'i available at wing fullback right now, playing at the 6th spot for the rest of the year, is a very viable cash out. He could potentially grow into, being a decent average. I'm talking like 30, 35 potentially. I don't think he's got a high ceiling for his average there just because the kicking game isn't that prominent and the run meters and reserve grade aren't super high either. He does average 44 in resis over 2 games in the halves, though. And I think it's a 38 or a 39 at fullback. So he's got some game in him, but I think when Mitch Moses comes back, we're going to see a bit more out of him. So personally, I'm looking very closely at Josh Papali'i as a cash out this week to cover wing fullback and probably not get the half jewel. I wouldn't expect him to get the half jewel, but there is a small chance he does. For the forward pack here for Parramatta, uh, Charlie Geimer, you can make a case for. If you want a really cheap option, I mean, yeah, Kautonga's out for a bit. Obviously, that hip drop tackle that wasn't called the hip drop tackle has taken him out. So Geimer could potentially get some big minutes here, and he made a bunch of tackles last week. Jack Williams, he's around. You're not really buying anyone in this Parramatta forward pack. Down to Silva is still a great cash out, but other than that, there's not too much to talk about for Parramatta. So, some questions here. Young's going to be a pod then? Yes, he will. He's so expensive. That's the key. He's too expensive for most people to jump on. So, if you want Young, pod up. And if you're a Young owner already, you should be happy that I'm talking people out of him because he stays your pod. Who are you captaining this week, Longy? I was going to captain Cleary 100%. So now it's probably, I don't even know. Hey, I'll have to figure it out. Maybe do I YOLO pod with Campbell? Campbell against Tigers. I might do something fun this week. Have a bit of a laugh with it. Then Taylor May, a buy, depending on price, 100%. Without Claire's, would you start Burton or Drinky? I'd probably start Burton and loophole Drinky, I would say. And Adam Dewey, we'll talk about him as well. Lucas to Lomax. Lomax is a bit of a pod. He's not someone I'd target personally. I just think Parramatta are too in the hole for you to buy a winger who's a bit attacking stat reliant from there. I'd personally go, for someone different. Maybe Carraz or Wanting to say if you want one of those types of players, or Bo Firma. Randall talking into a nice 18th man. The issue is if Dave Fafita eventually takes that spot back, but yeah, he's going well at the moment. Yohan Cleary getting rested this week. Good bench for Hopgood. I'd need to see it from Hopgood. He's having way too many games where he has 0 tackle breaks, 0 offloads, so we're just not seeing it from him. Then, who asked about Manu Vardave? Bye. Man, I actually don't even remember how he was for fantasy. I think he was a bit dodgy in fantasy, but yeah. And then 21 Josh Schuster. Hey, Long, you got an Origin jersey from the Smart B comp. Mate, no worries. No worries, mate. Yeah, Dearden Pod. Good shout. Hopefully, a bunch of you guys did win Origin jerseys from those comps. So, yeah, Smart B's giving out heaps of jerseys, which is pretty sweet. So, yeah, we'll go through more of those teams on Thursday this week too. Then, full-time hater. I've just got NRL Noz in here trolling me every live, mate. You used to be so nice to me, and now it's just Munster, Hines, and Eels hate from you. And then Galvin, a fringe buy over the run home. Yeah, 450K. Great price point for Lockie Galvin. I'm a big fan of the Galvin acquisition if you can make it work. Gagai, a sneaky pod. We'll talk about this as well. At fullback, he's very effective. All right, let's keep ripping through because there's more general questions. I want to give some time to those at the end. So, Dogs v Dragons here. We got Connor Tracy at fullback, Karaz, Tuala, Crichton, and Rinakama keeps his spot there. Then Burton and Galvin in the halves. Forward pack is King, Marnie, Hughes. Then we've got Kickout, Preston, Salmon. Interchange is Mann, Hayes, Curran, and Hayward. Extended bench here, Sexton in jersey 23. Could still cause problems. Also, Tupanua back in the conversation as well. The Dragons, Gutho at fullback. Then we got Sloan, Sully, Holmes, Finau, King Tongia, and Flanagan in the halves. Gula, Cook, Clemmer, then Leilua, Seward, DeBellin in the back row. Little, Laurie, Stewart, and Molo. So really, I've just gone through both teams here because the Dragons don't have much to talk about. I'm not gonna go through them all. But for the Dogs, there's a lot to talk about here. So Jacob Carraz at the wing spot. He had a bit of a shocker last week, still mid-30s, so not a disaster. He gets Stephen Crichton back this week. I think Carraz is not a bad option. I would probably give him time, but if you have to jump on this week, I'm not against jumping on Carraz at all. Just had a lower offload count last week. The attack's going to come. The Dogs are a good side. They've got a good run of fixtures here, and the Dragons love to league points. So you need a center. I'm not against Carraz whatsoever. For the rest of the backline here for the Dogs, Matty Burton next to Galvin should dominate kick meters here, but he has been dominating already. I think their attack is going to be a bit better too with Galvin in the team. So I think Matty Burton will be good for the run home. So if you have him, I'd probably just stick with him another week or two and just see how it plans out. Lucky Galvin, 450K, bit of a high break even, but if you want Lachlan Galvin in your team, it's a good option. It's a good option. I am very close to just buying Lucky Galvin for my side. 450K, he averaged 50 at the Tigers without massive kick meters. He plays in this dog side, bit of a better attacking team. He's got some weapons around him. He had some guys at the Tigers too, but I could see Lockie Galvin pushing into, a 50 to 55 average for the run home. So he's not quite a full-blown keeper. That's the issue there. But as an end of bench guy for 450K, I think like that availability is going to be big. And the fact that we're seeing Nathan Cleary getting rested, Isaiah getting rested. We've got Rabbitohs with a bye in round 26, Cowboys with a bye round 27. I think we're going to have some problems. We're going to have some curveballs thrown at us this year. So depth might be more important than we first thought. If you can get Galvin for 450K, you could do it this week or you could do it next week instead if you want to wait and see. For the forward pack here, nothing really to talk about here. If you've got, Kikau and Preston, you're going to keep them. They're doing a job. But I wouldn't be rushing to buy either. Preston's still a good option. He's still a good option. Just he's been a little bit dicey, but Galvin comes in as well. There's a few things up in the air for Preston. So if you want to get Preston, I'd probably recommend waiting a week to do it and just see how this plays, how this style is with the new configuration, and hope for the best. But other than that, I think it's sort of a wait and see scenario for those guys. Everyone I didn't mention there for the Dogs is basically a sell. Rinakama is a interesting little cash out as well. So if you do want to jump on him, I'm not against it. For the Dragons here, what is there to talk about? Entire backline, if you own them, sell them. And entire forward pack, if you own them, probably sell them as well. Damien Cook is one that, the minutes were okay last week. Scoring was not great. He's not quite a keeper. 65 minutes isn't enough. So you can move him on this week. Jack DeBellin, a bit of a trap. He played 65 minutes last week. I don't expect that to continue for the rest of the year. And I think they'd be silly as a team who's not going to make the 8 not to run Hamish Stewart for a few more minutes, who is their future lock. So I could see the Dragons, sort of being a bit all over the place. Jaden Sewer is a bit of a weapon. So if you do want a pod, you could jump on him. I just think there are better options in the back row spot. So I'll rip through the next game and I'll just quickly answer a few questions on this team. But yeah, that one's pretty fantasy irrelevant. Just, holding the guys and jumping on a few of those Dogs players. Hopgood averages 67 at prop. Yeah, but Hopgood this year has been rubbish. Yeah. Munster ruined your relationship with Noz. yeah, it's been tough, but I'm sticking with my boy Munster. Eels and Nico, I love to lose. Poor Eels. You guys should have a bit more empathy for the Eels. Dewey or Galvin? I think Galvin's got a better long-term role, but Dewey, if he stays at that lock spot, could be transcendent. Kraz better than Firma. Need a center. Yeah, Kraz is a great option. He's still a great option. He had a bad game last week. I wouldn't stress it. Is Kraz a sell at wing? Nah, Kraz is a better scorer at the wing spot. You want to see him play next to Stephen Crichton. We have no confirmation of that happening or not happening yet. So I'm going to try and find out if that's happening. Then Cook, definitely a sell. Yep. Cook, a sell. Yep. 100%. Happy for you to sell Cook. Ranking, Sewer, Gus, Firma. I would say just on pure score to value ratio, I'm going to go Gus, Firma, Sewer out of those three. Gus is a great option. Firma, if you need the center spot, I'm not really that interested in Sewer. But if you want the pod, he can score a try. Hines or Galvin, I'm going to go Galvin just for cheapness. Then Kraz or Firma for the run home. You need Kraz to start scoring some tries. That's kind of what you need there. I'm tossing up this exact same thing, and I'm leaning a bit towards Firma just for the Titans matchup this week. But Kraz could heat up as well. I really am tossing this one up. It's up in the air. I haven't decided yet. I'll give you a decision on buy, hold, sell. I'll give it a bit of a look. Sexton just dropped for Galvin. Yeah, that's right. So he's leaving end of the year. They're just going to do that. Bring me back to rookie Hopgoat. Yeah, he was a beast. Munster a buy. We'll talk about him at the Storm team, but could be an option you look at. Bit expensive. Top 3 wing fullbacks for the run home. So traditionally, it's sort of those top scorers. Latrell Mitchell is probably number 1. Jaden Campbell is probably number 2. They're the 260 plus guys. And then you choose between Kraz, Tedesco, these types of players. So I'm probably going to say Teddy is the third one. So it's Latrell, Campbell, Teddy. All right, let's rip into this next game here. We've got the Storm and the Sea. So for the Storm here, Nick Meaney at fullback still. No Pappenhausen. Is it a calf? Or what's going on there? Nick Meaney at fullback. Then we got Bradley, Howarth, Anderson, and Coates in the back line. Munster and Hughes in the halves. Forward pack, Katoa Manu, Grant, King. Then we got a Blore, Katoa, and Leo in the back row. Interchange, Wishart, Kamika Mitha, and Sofa Solomona, and Lasati. Now, extended bench here. No sign of Ryan Pappenhausen. Okay. I'll tell you what, if you bought Nick Meaney a few weeks ago, you're absolutely cheering because you've just been crushing it with his big fullback scores. I'm going to say for the Storm here, I mean, Kane Bradley keeps his spot. He's been rolling. Howarth is not a crazy option. If you needed someone cheaper, Meaney, I wouldn't back him to keep the spot for too long. Really, you're not targeting the Storm backline. So it becomes Cam Munster, Jerome Hughes. Jerome Hughes is pretty expensive now. I wouldn't be jumping on Hughes now that Munster's back. So probably not relevant. But if you have Hughes, you keep Hughes for sure. Cam Munster, I view the same way. I think he's a bit pricey right now. You get Galvin for 200K cheaper. Not quite as good a scorer, but a lot cheaper. So I probably wouldn't be jumping on Munster or Hughes at this stage. I think it's a bit late. If you have Munster and Hughes, though, you definitely hold them. I'll be holding Munster for the run home. I think he's got a lot of potential to get super hot at the right time. Forward pack here, Tokamano, Grant. Yeah, look, you can make a case for Harry Grant. Grant hasn't really shown it. That's the issue. He nearly scored a try last week, though. He had a few plays where he was looking good. So if you did want to jump on Harry Grant, I'm not against it. It's a pod play. It's a hope and a prayer. He's sort of been cool for about 12 months now. Personally, I'd need to see it first. That's kind of how I feel about it. I'm not going to be jumping on Grant again after the start of this year. Eli Katoa, very expensive, probably too expensive now. The time for Katoa was a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago when we recommended it. At this stage, you're better off just going for Gus Crichton or someone else instead. I think it's too late for Katoa. Then for the bench here, nothing really fantasy relevant. For Manly here, Hopewadi at fullback. We got Saab, Kohler, Trebojevic, and Garrick in the back line. Brooks, Trey Evans in the halves. We have Lodge, Jazz, Takyaho in the front row. Waddell, Trebojevic in the back row. Simpkin, Talau, Bullimore, and Sipley on the bench. It is sad for me seeing this team and thinking, I don't have Jazz Tavanga on my side anymore. I used to look forward to watching Jazz, start at hooker and then move to lock and get us those tackles. But that time is done. For Manly, I would say I would be very pessimistic about Manly for the next month of footy. They've got a really tough run of fixtures coming up this next 4 games. So if you own Manly players like Ruben Garrick or Tommy Turbo, probably temper expectations a little bit. The saving grace here is the Storm aren't quite at full strength in terms of their backline. So there may be something that Turbo can exploit or Garrick can exploit there. But I just reckon the Manly players might cool off a bit here. So I'm not super excited about them. I sold Garrick last week. I sold Jazz last week as well. I'm pretty happy with that call. I'm keeping Turbo as a bit of a loophole-y, depth kind of guy at the wing fullback spot. For the forward pack here, Ola Kawatu is back pretty soon, so Corey Waddell's not really relevant. And really, they're all sells. Like, there's just no one here who's really a keeper for Manly. You could take a shot at Trey Evans if you wanted to bet on the farewell tour. I'm not going to myself. Let's quickly hit up and see if there's any questions coming through for Storm v Manly before I open to Sunday's games. Perhaps out. It was meant to be 1 week and it just keeps being another week. There might be something else going on there. You never know what's going on behind the scenes. That's the issue. So I'd probably sell Paps if I had him myself. It's just been too long. Garrick is sell. I think Garrick's a sell. Yeah. Firma or Gus for the run home. Depends if you need center. If you need center, it's Firma. If you don't, it's Gus. Then any other questions here? Katoa or Firma? They're both pretty try-scoring reliant, but one plays in the best team in the comp and the other one plays at the Titans. So Katoa is the better scorer, but Firma has center. That's kind of a toss-up there. Really, guys, any question where you're going this guy or Firma? If the center dual position helps you, go Firma. If it doesn't, go the other guy, I would say. But Firma's a good option too. Just, he's not a crazy value option. Like if he was purely edge back row only, we wouldn't be talking about him too much. Hudson or Gus? I'm leaning Gus, but if you want the pod, you can go the pod. Perhaps Steph has something more than calf tightness going on. Yeah, it looks like there might be something else going on there. So, you know, I don't know what it is, but if I had him, I'd probably sell. Then a few questions coming through. Yeah, Jazz to Gus, definitely a good trade. I definitely sell Jazz 100%. Would you play Turbo or Garrick? I'm leaning towards Turbo over Garrick. I think Garrick's been all right, but he's very try reliant. Because Turbo seems to have a better base at center, and I think Turbo is going to get involved here. So I would go Turbo over Garrick myself. I don't expect Manly to win this game. I think if Manly going to win the game, you can maybe go Garrick instead. But Turbo has been pretty solid. He's been pretty good. Buying Jazz was the best part of the year. Broke my heart when I had to sell him. But fantasy is a business game. Lewis Murray just coming in with the wisdom here. Yeah, it was great having Jazz. We had a good time with Jazz. And then will Turbo get Jewel? I think he's a good chance of getting Jewel, but he's sort of similar to Hiroti and Purdue. So it's a bit tough to read. I'll be recommending he does get Jewel though. Now let's keep ripping through these games here. And we got the Tigers and the Titans. Then we go to the Knights and the Warriors. And that's our last couple of games. So Tigers beat Titans first. Taruva at fullback still. We got Staines. Taylor May comes in at center. Toa and Skelton in the back line. Then Jerome Luai and Latu Finu in the halves. Forward pack is Terrell May, Coruscant, Twal. And then Seyfarth, Suka, and Dewey at lock. Hope, Finu, Pole, and Bird on the bench. God, that's a bizarre team list. That is straight. Okay. And Titans, Brimson at fullback. DeGroot on the wing after a bit of a shocker last week, I will say. Then Kelly, Fafita, and Sami in the back line. Foran and Campbell in the halves. Fodawaker, Verrills, Campbell Gillard in the front row. Randall, Firma, Big Tino at lock. Interchange is Cam Pereira, Jolliffe, Dave Fafita, and Cleesas. So for the Tigers first, Taruva's not been great at fullback. I know I've said this a few times, but I really thought with the way he plays, he might be really effective for fantasy at fullback, and he just hasn't been at all. So that's a bit of a surprise to me, but yeah, not super relevant there. Taylor May, we'll keep an eye out for the price there. I'm keen to see what price he comes in at, but he could be an option you look at. He's been a bit hit and miss for fantasy, so he's had runs where he's been really good and runs where he's been pretty hopeless for fantasy. Come back to the Tigers. No, how in shape is he? We don't know the answer to that. I think he was doing that podcast with Terrell May. I think he's got a few more tattoos, so maybe if you like that, that's that's a point in the pros column there. But yeah, I know the Titans matchup's pretty tantalizing though. We'll see what the price comes in at. If he's below 450K, I'll think about it. Then in the halves here, Jerome Luai was really quiet last week, and Latu Finu sort of fallen off too. Both should be decent in this matchup. Bit of a shootout, hopefully. But I remember a few years ago we said it was going to be a bit of a shootout, and the Titans won 8-6. So yeah, it could be a stinker as well. Probably not. Try not to start Latu Finu though. He's not a starting 17 worthy guy. Forward pack here, Terrell May, minutes dropping off. Someone that you might want to reconsider captaining. But at the same time, this is his first game next to his brother, Taylor May. So we may see him lift in this one. I think there's a chance we do see him lift. The more I think about it, the more I think I might just captain Terrell May. We'll see. We'll see. I'll give it some thought. But I think playing next to Taylor May, they're very close too. They're close brothers. So could be a lift for him. Coruscant with Tristan Hope is not relevant. And the rest of the back line, Adam Dewey at lock. Let's talk about Adam Dewey at lock, actually. So are there any games that he's played? Let me just get this up. Where he's played at lock in the past. So we'll go to footy stats first. And by position here, we've got center, 5'8", fullback, halfback, interchange, and wing. So this is his first game at lock. All right, last game then. Let's just find that last game. So round 19 against the Warriors, he scored at 85. Grabbed 2 tries. Let's try to look at the stat line here because, yeah, this stat line, he played a bit of middle, but none of that stat line really suggests middle forward replicatable stats. I'm going to have to give this one some thought, to be honest. I mean, what are you guys thinking about Dewey at lock? It's a speculator. It's a pod. Could be good. The issue is he's in the 500s, so he's a pretty expensive option. Tough one. I'm going to give this one some thought. Let me know what you guys think of Adam Dewey there. 3 tries in reserve grade for Taylor May last week. That is great news. Okay, that makes him a little bit more appealing. Uh, yeah, hat trick last week. 44 average at wing, 36 at center. He was very quiet at center, but I think he'll get a bunch of ball here. So I don't know if he's at the right price, we'll have a think about it. Terrell May scoring 100 for his brother's first game. I don't think that's a crazy option there. I think Terrell May will try to throw a bit of attack at this one, with Talon being in the team as well. They'll try to link up a bit too. So I could see them really, really sort of having some fun here. So yeah, Terrell May is not a bad captain at all. Dewey in the middle is an injury risk. That's a great shout. Also, the fact that we've seen so much shuffling with this Tigers forward pack is really concerning here. So, Jack Bird was the starting age back rower. Then Sukar came in. Samuel Ofanu's now out. Seyfarth's in. Like, they're shuffling it all around. Alex Twal was the guy. He's now in the starting prop spot. Pole is now on the bench. Dewey's now at lock. Like, it's too messy for me. Like, Dewey could score well. If we were in round 7, I'd be jumping on Dewey. But at this point of the year, he's just so dodgy and he's so expensive. So probably not the guy I'd be jumping onto. If the rest of the Tigers here, nothing really crazy to talk about. So let's jump onto the Titans here. And for the Titans, Jaden Campbell had a shocker last week. He's at a really nice price point now. Tigers are a good matchup. I think Jaden Campbell is a great buy this week. And we didn't have him on the buys list last week just because the Broncos matchup is a bit dicey. But this is the week where he'll be on the buys list. So him and Latrell will be right there on the buys list this week. Outside of Jaden Campbell, Big Tino will be on the buys list as well. He's going to be part of the week. He might move up. But Big Tino, he is a stud. He scored about 50 points in 50 minutes last week. I expect him to go back to sort of 65 minutes in this game. We'll see about 60 to 65 points out of him. So if you want to jump on Tino right now at a discount, 620K, this is about as cheap as he will get. Have a bit of fun with it. I like that. Bo Firma, go look at Bo Firma's scores. It's a pretty safe option there. He's a 55 guy, very solid, has some attacking upside. Tigers are running, new combinations on the edge again. I think Bo Firma could score a couple of tries in this one and could be massive. So I'm pretty keen on that. Locked Up asked the question, if you're someone who's lost all hope in their fantasy season, would you go Dewey and Grant for the vibes? Yeah, have some fun with it, man. Yeah, I don't mind that. Dewey and Grant for the vibes. Take a shot. And really, fantasy is for fun, guys. Like, if you have 2 options in your head and you like them both, and one's more fun, the other one feels a bit more sensible, have some fun with it. We none of us get paid to play fantasy, right? I get a little bit of money for talking about it, but we're all here for fun. You're here voluntarily. Just have a bit of a laugh with it, and you want the big stories at the end. So especially down the stretch, if you're playing for an overall rank and you're a bit behind, have a bit of fun with it. Take some shots. Back your gut there. When will Taylor may be added to fantasy? I would expect in the next 24 hours he should be added. They'll just be figuring out what price it is. Hopefully he's like 400K. It makes it really, really interesting there. And firm for a double, not a bad shout here. Campbell and Young or Mitchell and Katoa Gus. I'd probably go Mitchell and Gus. I might go Campbell and Gus and just save the money. That's probably what I would do if I was you. And then with the Titans and Dez getting fired next week after his 500th game, do you think it'll affect the team fantasy scores with no coach? They'll be fine. They haven't felt super well coached this year anyway, so I don't expect it to have a big impact. Then Knights v Warriors. And by the way, that's not shade on Dez. Dez has been a G for a long time. Like that's a man who's done a lot in the game. But the Titans are they're a bit of a basket case. As a para fan, I understand how it feels, guys. So if you're a Titans fan, don't feel like it's me roasting you. It's me understanding your pain. And very fitting that we jump to Newcastle now, who are below both of us, I think, in the management stakes. So Gagai at fullback here. We got Young, Fletcher, Hunt, Best, and Marzu in the back line. Hastings and Cogger in the halves. Safidi, Brayley at hooker. Leo Thompson. And then we got Brody Jones coming into the edge back row spot with Kai Pierce-Paul and Phoenix Crossland. Gamble, Croker, Frizzell, and McEwen on the bench. For the Warriors, Tuapiki keeps the fullback spot here. DWZ, Pompey, Capewell, and RTS in the back line. CHT and Tanner Boyd in the halves. Then Fisher Harris, Egan, Ford in the front row with Halasima, Niokore, and Aaron Clark in the back row. Tyrone Martin, Laban, Valmunga, and Stowers Smith here. So I'll hit some questions here too because you guys got a few on these teams. Dane Gagai, big pod. And in fact, I think it's probably worth we'll go back to the foundations of this show. I remember when I first started this this Teamless Tuesday. It was like a 15-minute live, and I would jump on and just do my preparation for the buy hold sell video. And some people would jump in and just sort of look, and there was like 10 people watching. And it was a good time. So this is what we used to do. We'd just jump in and we'd go footy statistics, have a look at Gagai, go to fullback here, minutes over 70. So Gagai's fullback numbers, they date back a long time. 38 average historically. But recent numbers, he went well last game. The issue with these numbers is the most recent one is 2018. So, he's a different guy now. He's a different guy now. Like if you go to center here and you go to 2018, he was a 34 average in 2018. So yeah, those stats are kind of irrelevant there. Like Dan Gagai used to be a much lower run meter and tackle break guy than he is now. Now he's an absolute machine. So my view on this is Gagai could be a stud at fullback, potentially, but it's a real speculator. Like you're taking a shot on a guy who bit expensive. If you want to do it, you can. If you want to have a bit of fun, it's a vibe pick, right? Like it's probably not someone I'm jumping onto, but it is a nice vibe pick. Bradman Best is a vibe pick as well. If you want to jump on him, he's getting a lot of ball now. So Ponga and Fletcher Sharp are out. They both used to run the ball a bit more. Gagai's feeding Best a bit, and Hastings and Cogger are both pass first guys as well. So Best could be solid for the run home, but Newcastle are really dodgy, so I probably wouldn't do it. Then forward pack here, Brayley back to the hooker spot. Croker, Frizzell, McEwen. So what changed here? Because Safiti's there, Thompson's there. It might be a permanent configuration. If you have Brayley, you definitely keep him. If you don't have him, I probably wouldn't buy him. It is an upgrade, though, to Crossland and Brayley here. That they're in that configuration. So hold on a bit longer. Put him in your 17. Should be relatively solid for a 45 score this week. The rest of the forward pack here, Brody Jones is really cheap. Can score okay in that spot. You could look at him if you're really desperate for a cheaper option. Kai Pierce-Paul is someone I'm holding on to 100%. Had a nice little 3 offloads last week. I expect him to keep offloading a bunch. So, yeah, Pierce-Paul's a keeper from my side. Then on the off the nights, onto the Warriors here. Tuapiki was really good last week, but doesn't keep that spot for long. CNK is back. I believe it's next week or the week after. DWZ, nice and cheap. If you want a cheap wing fullback that you can score a bit every now and then, running the loophole. He's a fun one, but he's not loopable in this game because it's the last game of the round, so not a great start. The rest of the back line here, Tanner Boyd looks like he could be a low 50s guy at the Warriors. So, again, if you're desperate, you could do that. I'd probably go Galvin over Tanner Boyd myself, but the goal kicking and the bulk of the kick meters are very attractive for him. Forward pack here, Fisher Harris has not been it. Wade Egan has fallen off. Halasima, if he gets the 80 minutes, is awesome, but he's going to get the 80 minutes. It looks like he might with this team configuration. Aaron Clark is doing Aaron Clark things. He's going to keep on pumping that 60 average, so don't stress him. And then the bench is not super interesting. So I'll hit some questions on these teams, then some general ones. What do you guys got? Hit me up. Gagai, let's go. We got some Gagai fans. We got some Dewey fans. Look, these are the pods, guys. There's some fun pods this week. Some fun pods. Brady Jones pod, average 44.5 when he plays edge over 70 minutes. The over 70 minutes is the hard part there. No guarantee he gets that huge minute roll. Move on from Mazu. Yes, 100%. DWZ for Groot or Mason. Are you buying DWZ? It's a bit sideways. I personally wouldn't make that trade. It doesn't free up any cash, so I wouldn't do it. LKT to Boyd. Yeah, not a bad shout there. Bit of a pod. Cleary rested, correct. Brayley starting. Forward weather look, 55 plus, playing 60 plus minutes. A bit of a pod, only in the edge back row spot. May potentially get dual position. He's been named to start a few times now, so you could if you wanted to. I think he's not quite a keeper, so I wouldn't do it. Then Gagai pod, I'm going to do it. I think he keeps getting the fullback. I think he should keep that spot. Fletcher Hunt was pretty good last week. Gagai was very good at fullback, so as long as he stays fit, he'll pump out that 250 meters a game and score very well. Clark, my 2025 hooker. Yep, good shout. Halasima season hold. As long as he keeps starting, you can hold him for sure. JC or Karaz this week? I would go JC. JC, great matchup, better price point, better average. He's the guy. Blake Brayley is an absolute killer. Is it okay to hold Garrick? You can definitely hold Garrick if you want to. Jaden Brayley, Big W. Is Ponga gone for the season? Yes, that's correct. He is out for the year. Tavanga to Bailey, not a bad shout there. Cook to Bailey, you could do that as well. Hooker, it's up to you at hooker. Marshall King, Bailey, Connor Watson, Harry Grant. Like these guys are all good options. You just got to pick the one that you think is going to get hot because hooker has been so streaky this year, and there's not like an Isaiah Yo or a big Tina or a top guy I can say like at hooker. It's all about your personal preference. I personally think it's Connor Watson. That's how I see it. Then a big question here from Tancred. Did you win your Jenkins bet? Yes, crushed the Jenkins bet. So I needed him to get, I think it was 450K or something like that, and he went like 100K past it. Yeah, absolutely destroyed Jay-Z with that bet. But Jay-Z is doing better than me in fantasy this year, so he's doing well as well. Yeah, crushed you, Jay-Z. If anyone knows Jay-Z, tell him that I said that I demolished him. He has a tiny fantasy brain. So Viola to JC. JC, yeah, great option there as well. Yo or Tino for the run home. Tino plays this week, so I'm targeting Tino myself. But you want Yo as well. It's a tricky one. Save cash for Haas next week or go balls to the wall and splash the cash. You can get some cheaper options this week as well. So guys like Gus Crichton, Big Tino, there's maybe Lachlan Galvin, these types of players. You could jump on some cheaper guys and save a bit of money for Haas, which I would seriously look into doing if you can do it. Hey, Longy, picked up another jersey in Origin 3. Brother, you've won 2 jerseys off SmartB. That is absurd. That's ridiculous. We're going to have to get you on the show. Shoot me a message. I'll just pop my email in the chat. And, you guys don't abuse it. Andrew, put me on the chat. If you want to jump on a show at some point, we'll get you on talking about your SmartB strategy because that'd be super cool. Anyway, just drop my email in the chat there for you. Then Tino, Campbell, Edwards, and Gus, all good trades this week. Yeah, Tino, Campbell, Edwards, Gus. Edwards is a bit dodgy, but they're all pretty good options there. Marky Mark, Firma, Best, or Gagai. Both Firma's the one I like the most. Cook to De Silva with Aaron Clark at hooker already. Yeah, I think that's a good shout. Just a bit of a cash out there. Is Hughes a must-have? No, he is not. He's pretty expensive as well, so I wouldn't be bringing him in myself. Bring Galvin this week for Garrick. I think Galvin's a good option. Yeah. Lucas is gone for the year, Charney, so that's one note. Then anything else here? Value aside with the aim of most points. Oh, I love value though. All right, most points. We got Brayley and Watson. Guitar press, Young. I'd probably go, if it was me, I'd go Connor Watson, Hudson Young, and Trot Mitchell. Hudson Young does have that little injury issue though, so I might go Preston instead. But yeah, it's a tough one. Kieran, that was a mistake. No, so my email's on the Instagram and on the YouTube account anyway. So yeah, it's all out there. It's super easy. Who would you prioritize, Cleary or Latrell? Cleary is that genuine top captain option, so probably Cleary if I had to choose, but try and do both. And Farmworth for captain, not a bad shout. All right, cool guys. That's me pretty much done and dusted. Buy hold sale is going to come out at 7 a.m. tomorrow, so that's where we're going to hit a lot of these points. Big discussion points this week. Obviously, Cleary and Yo are out of the equation, so it's going to be. I'm sort of basing it off the conversation today, but wing fullback targets. Who to go for at wing fullback? Latrell versus Jaden Campbell versus, most of us have Tedesco, but Teddy, Karaz, and then all the other options there. At the center spot, do you go Bo Firma or do you go Karaz, or do you potentially go cheaper with Dane Gagai or even Taylor May there too? In the halves, what to do in the halves spots there, how to fill that halves up. You've got Savali, you're selling him. Do you go cheap with the Lockie Galvin? Do you go Tanner Boyd, or do you go to the top with Isaiah Katoa, Nico Hines, these types of guys? And then we'll talk a bunch about mids as well. I think Big Tino, we'll talk about Gus on the edge and the hooker spot too. So this week's a big week. Don't max trade, I would say. Most teams shouldn't be using 4 trades. Have a look at your team. Have a look at your starting 17 and think, all right, how many trades do I need to make my 17 good and make that number of trades? That's the key here. Anyway, cheers, guys. Thanks for jumping on. Good sesh today. Enjoy. I'll see you guys on Buy, Hold, Sell 7 a.m. tomorrow. Otherwise, Wednesday night, we do Pit My Team. And Thursday night, the show is back, 6:30 p.m. Last Minute Madness. I'll see you there.